everyone, and welcome back to the Pair Program. I'm your host, Tim Winkler, alongside my faithful co-host, Mike Gruen. Mike, how's it going?
It's going all right. How you doing?
It's good. It's good. I just, coming with that random fun fact. I just read that at the beginning of each year, Lake Superior State University. You ever heard of it?
No.
So Lake Superior State University releases a list of banished words. And these are kind of like terms that have become overused or misused or just unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, we are not supposed to use these 10 words: cringe, game changer, era, dropped, IYKYK, sorry, not sorry, skibbity, 100%, utilize, and period.
Utilize has been on my list for a long time. It's one of those words that bothers me because use, it means the same thing. And usually people who use I'm going to probably offend some people, but I don't care. But people who use the word utilize, I mean, there are times like utilization and stuff like that, but for the most part, usal just serves the purpose, and people tend to use it to sound more articulate than maybe.
Yeah, I've said sorry, not sorry before, and I was like, oh.
I say cringe all the time, but I say it like ironically to my kids, so I feel like that's okay.
Well, knowing that we've only got a couple days left to use these words, I asked ChatGPT to use all of them to create a little ad pitch for us. So here's what it spit out. In this era of podcasts, the Pair Program truly dropped as a game changer, navigating cringe tech cliches with 100% insight. Sorry, not sorry. Utilize our episodes to stay ahead. If you know, you know, period.
Wow. No skibbity.
No skibbity. You're right. Yeah, a little default.
Just shows how AI
is accurate. AI.
It's not going to replace all our jobs yet. Anyway,
all right, good stuff. Let's give our listeners a little bit of a preview on what today's episode is all about. So, today we are hitting on a topic that's always top of mind for any startup founder, and that's going to be scaling the business. This is going to be a little bit of a unique spin on scaling. We're fortunate to have with us the founder of a dual-use startup who's shaping the future of defense with trusted tactical autonomy. EpiSci's is the name of this startup. Their founder is Bo Ryu. He's with us to tell the story of how they're building trust in their AI algorithms for the use of autonomous vehicles like planes and boats for the military. In addition to Bo, we're excited to have David Rothzeid, a principal from Shield Capital, also joining us. Some of our longtime listeners might recall that we had another Shield Cap member join us last year with Mike Brown on a good conversation around dual-use tech. So Bo, David, thank you both for joining us today on the Pair Program.
Thank you so much. Very privileged to be on the show.
Yeah,
good stuff.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Good stuff. Looking forward to it. All right. Now, before we dive into the heart of the discussion, let's warm up with our favorite segment, the Pair Me Up segment. Here's where we'll go around the room and spitball some fun pairings. Mike, you kick us off.
Yeah. So going back to the family stuff, kids and science projects. That's going to be my pairing. They go well together. Over the weekend, I helped my oldest son, who is 18, with his biology project, which involved fire, which is always good, and probably could have just been a pairing on its own, fire and something, and the impact on like seeds. So we wanted to light fires on top of like planted seeds and see what would happen. One thing we did not account for was the nitrogen and phosphorus rich soil we had used, and it created quite the toxic gas. It was outside, so it wasn't that big a deal. I'm not like a crazy person, but since it was so cold, we had to move the pots into the garage, and overnight it was just kept on outgassing for days, So it was not
what can go wrong,
Yeah, exactly. Kids and science projects.
Have they done it? Has he presented yet, or is it still?
We're in the very early stage. We haven't even planted we haven't even really seen anything really come from. But we have the seeds. They need to be watered. It's going to take a little while.
Nice.
Yeah.
Kids and science projects. That's classic. I feel like that's been around for years.
For days, I felt like I had eaten a battery. Like,
I always picture those, the classic like volcano, getting it to spew out the lava. Cool. All right, we'll accept that. Let's move it around here. I'm going to go with like a classic sports tradition, and I'm going to pair a little bit of this hometown pride. I'm going to go with a playoff beard and the Washington Commanders in the NFC Championship game. So it's been 34 years waiting for this moment. A lot of disappointment out of the DC area when it comes to the Redskins Commanders team. So it's still a bit surreal to be in this position. So I'm growing out the beard until we either win it all or get knocked out. Been growing it since we beat the Bucks, took on the Lions, and now going in against the Eagles. I'm rooting for at this point, can't be disappointed that we've made it this far, but I'd love to keep growing this thing into the Super Bowl. So that's going to be my pairing, the playoff beard and seeing the Commanders in the NFC Championship game.
I'm going to show my NFL ignorance because hockey is playoff beards. Is playoff beards a thing in
it's
other
yeah
sports?
Yeah, it goes. It's sports wide. It's not just for. I think hockey is probably the most relevant or the most well known for the playoff beard, but I think people are growing them out for any sport at this point.
Any excuse.
Yeah.
Love it.
Good stuff. All right, let's pass it over to David. How about a quick intro and your pairing?
Awesome. Well, David Rothzeid here, principal investor at Shield Capital. And Tim, congratulations on the Commanders. I know exactly what you're going through as a lifelong Bengals fan. 3 years ago, I got to witness my first playoff victory as a conscious human being, and it was a pretty surreal feeling. And
was that against the Bills?
It was the Raiders.
The Raiders.
Yeah, and there's a story behind how I celebrated at a particular spot, and maybe for another podcast. But as far as the pairs go, I was thinking about this on the flight to LA last night when you sent this homework out, and I had two, and one kind of for this different seasons. So right now, given that it's the dead of winter in DC, my pair is Scotch next to a nice hearty fire.
That's a good
But the one that I'm looking forward to when the weather gets better is walking the dog, listening to a podcast. Maybe this podcast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you said Scotch, right?
Scotch.
Yeah. That's something about that that's just kind of warming, right? It's gonna set off the fire. It's Mike's kid over there probably teeing up another fire while Mike's sipping his own Scotch. But that's a good one. And then podcast and walking the dog. It's actually, I think we've had one of those.
I was going to say, I feel like we've had that. I mean, we've definitely had X and a fire, drinking and fire. But not.
Sorry,
I don't think specifically
Scotch.
Scotch and a fire. I mean, I don't know. I could just stare into a fire for hours. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know. That's a common thing.
While drinking, right?
Doesn't matter. I've really been trying to cut out the drinking. It's the easiest calories to cut from my diet.
Yeah. No dry January for you. All right, we're just gonna jump into passing it over to you on a quick intro and your pairing, Bo.
Sure. Hi. My name is Bo Ryu. I'm the founder of EpiSci's and now a former CEO of EpiSci's, and I'll tell you more about that throughout the show. My most favorite pairing is actually a cell phone and a voice assistant. And the reason I mention it is that always get frustrated with I use Android, Google Voice, just don't understand that well, and I just saw the news yesterday about Samsung new phone where they're gonna have the actual on-device edge AI running the actual AI, so you don't really need to cloud, anything like that, just to send your questions and get the answer back. And looks like it's going to be very, very powerful. So actually, I'm very much looking forward to using that, when the phone is out. And really not have to type anything, right? Just tell what to do, and then phone will do it for me. Just looking forward to it.
Yeah, very nice. Anybody else here an Android user? Mike, David?
Am I the only one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm from South Korea, so I'll give you my allegiance.
We'll take your green bubble in our group text any day, Bo. Excellent. Well, again, we're super thrilled to have you, you and David both. Let's go ahead and jump into the core of today's episode. So, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about scaling swiftly without the burden of maybe building every component from scratch, specifically in an area of high regulation such as defense tech. So we're going to be hearing from Bo, the founder and CEO of EpiSci, whose company is a testament to the power of this strategy of horizontal AI autonomy for some major defense customers. In addition, we'll dive deeper into some of those use cases where their tech is disrupting, like autonomous UAV swarms, kind of catch that VC perspective from David, riff on some future trends within dual use, and then we'll wrap with the rapid fire Q&A on our 5-second scramble segment. But let's go ahead and start with you, Bo. Can you kind of give us the backstory behind founding EpiSci? And as someone who's worked a number of years in aerospace and defense, what kind of led you to focus specifically on AI software in a space that has historically been heavy hardware?
Well, thank you for asking that question, and again, thanks for having me in the show, Tim. The genesis of EpiSci, actually, we don't have a glotzy or fancy story behind. Me and my couple of colleagues from university got together and really wanted to advance our R&D in general through CBER programs. So back then, EpiSci was founded back in 2012. CBER was one of the most attractive methods actually to start a defense small business, because companies like Shield Capital was not there, and it's not that I know of, because the venture capitals and defense were certainly totally different environment back then. So I started the company when really VC sees the defense as a totally, kind of mismatching market, right? Because no scale there, customer is very hard to deal with. And now fast forward to 2025, right? Now look at the news, right? About, this company raising 200 million, that company raising 500 million, and just amazing to see that complete change. So our start was very humble, and I happened to have the colleagues, my co-founders, with AI background. At the time, not the deep learning. It was more of an AGI researcher in robotics and the signal processing. So our goal was to create a holistic system approach and solutions for a number of different systems. And that's where actually the name EpiSci comes from. So EpiSci stands for kind of epiphany of system science. The system science is kind of fancy word for the system integration and system engineering in general, in interdisciplinary areas working together to create the breakthrough. And I love the word epiphany, and it just you want to have as many epiphany as you like, you need and you want, right, for making your startup, your company really the breakthrough. So that's how the EpiSci came about, and I'm very much actually looking forward to this new chapter of EpiSci, well, maybe I should break the news right now while I'm introducing it, I guess. So we were just acquired by a company named Applied Intuition. Applied Intuition. Thank you. Yeah, it was wildest journey I've never imagined I would take. Where we are at. Very thrilled about it. And just like us, where EpiSci focuses purely on software autonomy. And if you look up applied intuition, it also does actually software autonomy primarily for automotive business. So they provide a lot of software, autonomy tools and software to a number of different car manufacturers and OEMs. And they have started making the inroads into defense, I think back in 2019 and 2020. And their focus has all been the ground autonomy because they provide the software for the vehicles, for self-driving and a lot of the autonomous technologies. And EpiSci does autonomy for maritime and airborne, and which we'll talk about more. So it was a great marriage. And also, the topic of today's, the discussion here, dual use. One more can you have when you bring a scale of the automotive market, proven productization and tools, apply that to defense tech, for the scale up. So, the topic that we have, I think, is a perfect one for us and for me to really talk about what the dual use really means, at least to me and my fellow EpiSci employees.
Yeah, and I'd love to dive deeper into some of those specific use cases, because I just think it's a fascinating journey on, how you took the technology into the, say starting within planes and how that carries into other domains like within maritime. So we'll get into that, but for one, congratulations, an amazing accomplishment as an entrepreneur. Never an easy road, but here you are, 14 years later from starting the business and, a successful exit. So kudos and congrats. David, let's hear your perspective a little bit here from the Shield Capital side of things. What is it that kind of stands out regarding, maybe EpiSci's approach to dual use technology and again, seeing an industry that's been predominantly, a hardware heavy kind of space. The software and AI boom, how is that impacting the defense sector?
Yeah, well, first off, Bo, congratulations. That's really exciting news. Yeah, great for your team, great for your conviction, the vision, and hopefully this won't be the last time we hear of such great news as you go off and build more. But just something to highlight that Bo kind of talked about when he was getting started in 2012, and the fact that there was, a dearth of venture capital in the marketplace. Like, it's totally true. And I'd say today, you've sort of seen a much larger groundswell as the Department of Defense continues to become a better customer. But I think even more consequential is the recognition of the convergence of technology and the fact that maybe dual use is sort of an outmoded term, because everything is sort of dual use, and anything that's being built for the commercial sector has an application in the national security environment, and anything that the national security environment wants to do that's pretty advanced, there's probably a commercial use case as well, right? And once upon a time, the Department of Defense didn't make it so, it didn't exist. And I think, that day is long gone. And what we're seeing from the venture capital community and why there's such interest is the fact that the national security environment, to include, the DoD and ally nations, are just becoming a better buyer of this technology. And so, with that, I think Mark Andreessen famously wrote, software is eating the world. And, now there's going to be new topics and, with ChatGPT and Anthropic and Gemini, where AI is just sort of going to be part and parcel to everything that we do. And it'll be difficult to distinguish what is like AI and what is just operating in our day-to-day environment. And a lot of it has to do with good software. But, you still do need incredible hardware to be able to apply things. At the end of you need real things. And a lot of this dual use renaissance or defense tech renaissance is largely being driven by a lot of hardware companies. And a lot of the enablements and the value is being increased because the software is also good. So the user experience, the user interfaces are just sort of meeting the moment, right? Anduril has Lattice, but it's a lot of different hardware components tied to it. And the same thing goes for a lot of the portfolio companies at Shield. You know, I'll highlight Overwatch Imaging. You know, they have a line of business where they're building sensor camera balls, but they've also got their automated software operator, ASO technology, that helps process all of the sensors at the edge, bringing it back to an environment that's probably not quite as austere, where operators can be, and being able to still perform the mission. So it's that combination, I think, of hardware and software that enables artificial intelligence to start having some really impactful things, both, you know, on the battlefield, or if you're just, you know, a company operating in a remote environment, being able to do things more with less.
And on that one, David, I'd like to amplify, if that's okay with you, what you have just said with two things. I'm totally with you in that the word dual use, you know, is more of the outmode aspect, more convergence. But what is unique and challenging is actually from the business standpoint. Now that I have gone through from start to the finish, it's actually being able to monetize with the notion of the dual use actually is extremely hard. So, yes, things can be used for both national security and the commercial part, but having a company actually to apply to that both domains, actually is a lot harder than I thought. That's number one.
Yes.
So I think that is kind of where I have learned perhaps the biggest lessons in this journey. That, you know, we know autonomy can be used for national defense and the commercial and all that, but eventually, in order to answer to investors, say like you, right, we have to demonstrate that we are able to monetize it through scaling, right? Scaling, and that's kind of where we are. I'm really excited about the next chapter of EpiSci's. That's the first one. The second one is that the in defense, you know, as Tim said, is very hardware driven. I believe we are one of the very first one who has, if not the first one, actually who has no hardware and dare to say that we are doing autonomy for DoD. So you look at all other companies that that we work with, including Anduril. And if you look at Anduril, although they had different systems for borders and all that, actually when it came to the autonomy, they started with Lattice, right? I believe that, you know, when I met actually the founder, Lucky Palmer, several years ago, I think he said this Anduril was very, you know, software driven at the time. But now you see the more and more drones that they're building and all that. So they have that more of the holistic system. So we, you know, it's funny that one of the very first trade shows that we went to was AFA. Actually, it's not the big one in DC, it's the one in the Colorado. I think we were the only booth that has no device to show. No missile, no plane, you know, no drones, and I think, I mean, we were very proud of that aspect because we believed, and we continue to believe, that in order to truly provide that dual use or the scalability of the autonomy, you know, we had chose to not invest or chose to not go into a particular hardware path, you know, so that we can really focus on finding ways to demonstrate, develop and demonstrate our autonomy solutions, we call it tactical AI, to heterogeneous platforms and not have to compete, right, with, you know, one of the companies which happens to have, right, hardware, right, that we might also have, and going to go after that. So, you know, because the volume, at least when we started, actually when the era of autonomy really has taken place, which is back in 2018, 2019, with the the era of the AI and the deep learning stuff. The we quickly pivoted in the sense that how do we scale our software, autonomy software, We cannot, at the time, there was no replicator, there was no swarming. A lot of times it was a large asset, right? Largely produced by DoD primes and enabled autonomy. So we took the approach where, we are going to make sure that our solutions are modular, and we have an opportunity, we have developed enough secret sauce to be able to bring the emerging AI solutions, the deep learning modules and all that, but still part of the bigger system. So that's kind of how we have evolved from just the SBIR company to develop and demonstrate our solutions. And really, now we have about more than 20 platforms that runs our autonomy as a core. Of course, there are variations of our software because sensors are different, the platforms are different, right? Some of them are Group 1 UAS, some are uncrewed maritime boats, some, as you might recall, is F-16, the Vista, where we are very proud of flying Secretary of Air Force, Kendall, to experience actually what AI can do on a real fighter jet. So, and if you look at the autonomy as a whole, it is not just about controlling the assets and the teaming together. You actually, as you mentioned, you actually have to know a lot from the sensor domain standpoint. Because sensor is a starting point to learn and understand what's going on. So EpiSci has the sensors and signal processing from the beginning, and now the kind of autonomy control, the teaming and control. The third part being the battle management. And now we are able to do it maritime and airborne, and now in some way, space as well. And that's the holistic approach was our bet that's what DoD would need. But I have to tell you, David and Tim, not having the hardware, I think, was very difficult because DoD is not buying software licenses, right? As you know, so how do you monetize it? Mm-hmm. Now we have a very first sale of our autonomy software to DoD. Actually, we hope to announce that. And now they are really beginning to adopt the software world, right? The software model world, where they are willing to pay license for a per tail basis, for example, and because you are building a lot of the assets, for the scalable swarms and systems and all that. So sometimes I feel that maybe we should have been but 2 years late or 2 years early, depending on how we position ourselves. But again, it's all now in the past. And now what's exciting for us is that the amount of expertise and experiences in the productization and the robustness and the scrutiny of the commercial technology through our new company, Applied Intuition, now can seamlessly apply and leverage our defense tech and make it really better, safer, and secure to use, right, for the scale. And that's really what excites me the most, among other things that that we have going on with Applied Intuition.
Yeah, I think that's something that's when I was reading a little bit more about your background and EpiSci at large, you were always emphasizing speed and scalability, and those are two areas that you don't always associate with defense or plugging and playing into those environments. And so to be able to take your technology and to figure out a solution on how to get to that endpoint is super impressive. I want to kind of build a little bit on that, and David, from your perspective, like from risk management within like AI investments, this need for kind of rapid adaptability in defense technologies. How do you assess the potential of companies like EpiSci that are developing, like tactical autonomy solutions? Like, what are some of those key factors that would influence your investment decision in this kind of like high stakes sector?
Yeah. So just kind of like as a preamble, but I do want to hit on something that Bo said, or maybe start a controversy or like conspiracy here. But so with that, like adaptability breeds scalability, but also you can think about horizontal growth from a platform standpoint. But I think what Bo kind of articulated is that if you can go have a vertical depth in a specific application, you can build a lot of user trust. And then it's at that point, you can go from one system to many systems. And then that breeds scalability. I guess the big thing is, though, pick that first sort of use case proof point very carefully, because you want it to be a proxy by which other end users or other systems also see themselves in that, right? So that they want a piece of it, right? So you just kind of want to build that fear of missing out. I don't think that was one of the terms that was canceled for this year, so we're okay with FOMO still. But just to start a little bit of a conspiracy theory here, Bo, was it your ride then on the F-16 with the former Secretary of the Air Force that got NGAD postponed to the upcoming administration? I mean, I'm just reading the tea leaves here. That's what happened.
Oh, that's a spicy take.
Wow, that's a spicy one. And
I think the timing kind of works out. So, now we know what the incoming administration has said about
we'll see what they do.
Platforms.
We'll see what they do. But again, that was back in April, end of April. There was publicized and all that. And whenever, it's the nice thing about actually at EpiSci that I feel very actually fortunate is, I was able to start a defense company with virtually no defense background. My background is not defense; it's just R&D. It's R&D. Right. SBIR allowed me to start a company like this with my other founders. But now I have plenty of credentialed people at EpiSci actually who will be happy to take the question from you, David, the controversy question, and give their perspective on it. Because I'm gonna, I'll decline to respond because I didn't know.
So Bo talks about leveraging the SBIR program, I think, in one of the most pure senses. And the way that, we in the venture capital community look at it is, hey, you tell me another industry out there with a customer who is willing to sort of underwrite your research and development, and I'll call you a liar, right? They don't exist. So, I think the difference, though, and Bo, if you had started your company a little bit later when, AI sort of became the currency of the realm and leveraging autonomous systems, but also trying to think about scalable solutions for the Department of Defense that maybe one day will also have applicability in the commercial. Yeah, you probably would have fetched a pretty penny, and, leveraging those two things, I think, is really important for, the modern state of where technology is headed and the need from a national security environment to be able to build disruptive tech that can scale. It's really hard to do that. And just ask Bo, without a little bit of venture capital funding to sort of help bridge the gaps, make sure that payroll can always be hit, not have to compromise on where your focus is, and thinking about product market fit for, the ultimate end user who maybe isn't interested in your nascent solution. And so you have to sort of work with whoever is willing to work with you. And maybe they don't have the shared vision that you do, or the connectivity to the scaled approach that something like a replicator, which I imagine Bo has probably been a big boon to EpiSci's business, to sort of showcasing the way that these autonomous systems can operate in tandem, right? Whether that's a swarm or just connectivity to implement concepts like joint all-domain command and control, right? JADC2. So, I just kind of wanted to hit on what Bo talked about with leveraging the SBIR program, which generally does have a bad reputation because not all companies are founded by people like Bo, who is trying to see and execute the larger vision, absent venture capital dollars.
I think I want to pull on that a little bit, David, because it's funny. It's almost like you read some notes that I had about the cool thing about government is that they do have that money there to fund your R&D. And I've been at plenty of companies where that's the push pull of like, okay, like at one company, our solution was like we split the company and there was one group of us. We had our core NLP engine and there was a federal group that was selling, into the federal, and we had very little like impact on the core product. And there was the core product that was selling commercial, like it's the same engine, but very, very different. And that's, 2005 timeframe. Wow. And then keep going forward, and all these different companies I've worked at. And there's always this like tension between government, which the money is there and it's R&D budget and so on and so forth, and it can drive innovation, but the time scales, they're much longer. It's harder to collect on the money, and it's much easier. Like when you have that you have that sales team, and you're like, yeah, but if we just build all this stuff, we can sell over here and we can get that. It's like this. And I'm just curious, like how much of that has changed? Is it still that I was talking to somebody who's at a dual use company now, and they have that challenge of like, we have this money. We know that if we can do this contract, we get like $1.5-2 million. And that's really appealing. And balancing all of that work against, but we also want to do this other stuff. And like, yeah, I'm just curious, like what your experiences are with, and what advice you'd give to companies trying to balance that all out.
Well, Bo intimated right on this already. It's really hard to focus on both.
Right.
So what we talk a lot about with our portfolio companies, and with Shield Capital, we invest at the early stage. So predominantly seed, Series A. We'll go earlier, even into pre-seed, right? Your first money in. And I think we've dabbled just very little in like later stage stuff. But focus is super important because you've got a small team. Your time is the most valuable resource that you have as a startup. And so we think about it very conscientiously with our founders of, this is why you go into the national security environment. And it better be because the available dollars are going to occur faster, or you're building hardware systems that could really be helped out with underwriting of, directive phase 2 SIBRs, which might then leverage a TAC-FI, or in the Army, the Catalyst, or hopefully a Strat-FI. And that sort of gets your product to a level of like 0 to 1. Mm-hmm. Maybe at that point, it's appropriate to start looking at the commercial sector, because they can take your one product that now has de-risked all of the technical stuff and maybe has a rubber stamp of approval from a really difficult customer, the Department of Defense, right, who is using stuff to make sure that people stay alive, right, or to deter their adversaries. And maybe you can start to scale that into the commercial sector. And maybe because you're able to now get all these iterations and economies of scale and faster adoption, now you hire just a hit squad to help you scale inside the government that does have like longer sales cycle to establish, what people talk about, the elusive program of record that then provides you kind of annual recurring revenue from the Department of Defense, which as a venture capitalist, that's ultimately what I want to see. I don't want to see you getting drunk on non-dilutive R&D contracts that are fairly difficult to sustain themselves and don't actually show true product market fit. But, so for me, it does, and for Shield Capital, it does depend on the technology that you're building. Where is the market opportunity, and how quickly can your customers help you grow and scale, be able to build as disruptive of a technology company as possible?
That's interesting, because I think you pointed out the like getting diluted on the government side and on that. But I think and my experience was, I think in some cases we chased the commercial market too quickly, and that we didn't, right. And now we're trying to satisfy two different masters at two different paces, and they're divergent. And we don't have that core product, and we don't have, whatever it is. And now we're sort of floundering, between the two and not really sure, then there's all these strategy questions about where do we want to focus. And I think it's a pretty common thing for startups to not have focus. I mean, and I loved your earlier point about, build trust, do something deep, build the trust and expand from there. I think that is a much better solution than like you don't want to be TGI Fridays where you have this giant menu of all of these things that you kind of do kind of okay.
Yeah, no, I think they're in a little bit of trouble last I saw in the public markets. I'd be remiss not to just quickly highlight. So I'm currently in LA. I just had a board meeting with Apex. They're a satellite vehicle manufacturer. The satellite vehicle that they sell to their government customer is the same thing as they sell to their commercial customer. Now, they did the proof point with a lot of national security customers on their first satellite vehicle, which then helped unlock in a pretty prodigious fashion buyers and customers for the commercial sector. But at the same time, that space heritage was also a very important proof point to other programs in the national security environment. So I would say that like Apex is maybe kind of uniquely situated and positioned, but maybe going forward, that is going to be a lot more commonplace, again, as these markets continue to converge on, we just need the best technology. And the best technology generally is getting some sort of economies of scale because, you can start to reduce the margins, but increase the performance. And that's really ultimately what everybody wants, right? We don't need to have exquisiteness, to the level that others might think. The price point just doesn't make sense. Or, you talk about what our adversary is able to do with mass. And at a certain point, exquisite versus mass, exquisite's going to lose out because you're going to lose on the cost curve.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'll stop there.
I think also one more thing to add to that is that, we often talk about three things, right? Speed of development or speed of the productization, quality of the product, and the cost, right? That incurs. So you have speed, cost, and quality or capability. Getting three all done is extremely hard. Oftentimes you have to let one go, either, hey, it's going to take a lot longer to get cost down, right? Or quality has to be sacrificed because we have to get something out and all that. But I think the autonomy, when it comes to autonomy, I feel that we are reaching a point where customers expect all three of them. All three of them. And that I feel it both in the commercial sector as well as the defense sector as I go in. So how do you bring a solution that's very, very fast, right? Doesn't cost that much and still maintain high quality. And one use case, so what I want to actually advocate here is that as we become part of the Applied Intuition family, we see an opportunity where the cost to add the tools and autonomy tools and autonomy stacks for a new customer will get faster and faster, and then cost is lower and quality still remains high because of two things. Number one, in the automotive market, I'm learning a lot still these days about our parent company, but it does show how that scalability, is being achieved. That's number one, and number two, when it comes to the adaptation to to the new market and all that. Nice thing about autonomy is that it no matter whether you are going to maritime or small drones or the larger drones, oftentimes you have to do three things. They all have the three things that are common. They all have sensors, right? You all have to control the platform really well, flying it, right? And number three, you really have to make a good decision on what you want to do by yourself or with your teammate, whether it's a manned or crewed or uncrewed. And Ukraine obviously changed all these things, right? So cheaper, right? Having a lot of these things that work really well as a group, will really redefine the future of the warfare. And I really think that at least based on what I have seen so far, the autonomy world is moving towards that direction.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because just an initial search on applied intuition, and it sounds like a lot of what their core areas are the trucking industry as well, and so
Trucks
how,
are
yeah,
that they have uh, over 20 manufacturers that they're working on. So definitely there's a lot going on for their company. I'm not going to speak for for my new owner, right?
yeah,
For my new boss, obviously, but what I've seen so far is so exciting because David, you've seen so many small businesses, right, in defense tech tend to have a good tech, right? Has a potential, but not able to take that to the next level. I mean, how many times we hear about the value of death, right? I mean, so let's not even go there. But we were fortunate; we were able to get Strafi. We were able to get some seed money from our defense investors, and and finally have an opportunity to really scale up, to a wide range of autonomy solution providers, as autonomy partner. And that model we want to maintain and demonstrate. That's how you're going to get the cost down to acquire new autonomy and still perform really well.
yeah. Excited to track that. Obviously, it's still so early, but maybe we have a follow up episode in 6 months or 12 months and see how things are going.
I'd love
But
to.
on the dual use piece, yeah, it's an area that we are continuing to get inbounds from our community looking for just more about this, because I think it does get thrown around quite a bit. We've got an exciting episode that we're crafting in about 2 or 3 weeks, which has David, you may know him, Jake Chapman, wrote that piece around dual use as a trap, and Gene Kesselman from MIT's Ventures, and it's more around just redefining dual use, but not so much as a label, but more creating this like strategy and a framework around entering those markets based on demand and scalability, versus I feel like it's often just an accidental, oh, maybe there is a use case here. And through that, you don't, as a startup, don't typically have the capital to play that experiment out. But yeah, also I do want to plug, yourself and Maggie Gray from Shield Capital, a great Substack that you guys put out regarding this mission-driven metrics and a framework for assessing startups that are targeting national security. We'll include it in our episode and in the show notes, because I thought it was a really great piece and super well thought out with how you define it from, like the team and some of the other key metrics that you're looking at.
Yeah, thank you.
But
and just real quick, so I had the honor to co-write that one with Maggie, but it is her Substack, Gray Matters. She's just prolific, putting out something very compelling and interesting to anyone who's interested in the national security space as well as AI area, called Gray Matters. So yeah, I was honored to write that piece with her, and it was a lot of fun because I'll just say this: this whole dual use, mission driven, right, purposeful tech, like there's a lot of nuance here, and I think it's just really important for founders when they think about embarking on this journey, that you're going to want people around you that just truly understand the space and can provide you good advice based on their own scar tissue, right? So it's definitely nothing to sneeze at. Like it's hard, but if you get the right people around you, it is doable, and it just requires nuance. So just wanted to get that out there.
And the nuance aspect that David I want to add is that I'm losing my thoughts here. My apology. Is that when you when you have the capital, to really build something that we believe the dual use, it is the biggest lesson I learned is that when I was starting, even after we pivot to the autonomy world, we also recognized we gotta have sensors. We gotta recognize that we gotta have the teaming, working and all that. And being able to tell that story, the complete autonomy story, actually to investors, was much harder than I thought. So oftentimes because we don't have. So are you going to charge government on a per machine, or are you going to sell the complete system to a prime or what? And as we were team of 50 people at the time, right? Trying to focus on the maturing some of those technologies and all that. Yeah, balancing that out, right? At that stage was brutal. So I think, David, you're right that those founders really do need to understand what they're focusing on, right? And really maybe take up smaller but a focused area, to go big and deep, go to deep, rather than trying to solve much larger problem. I think some founders, including myself, right, were oftentimes get trapped. Oh, we gotta solve that one as well to make our product more appealing, So why don't we do that? And so yeah, that balancing is very difficult as founder, and I wish Shield Capital were available.
I would have invested. I would have been right in there.
yeah.
One meeting.
Different person, David. So
next time. Bo.
Next time, yeah.
Well, let's put a bow on it. It's a good wrapping point. We're going to go ahead and pivot to our final segment here, which is the 5-second scramble. Here's where we're just going to ask a series of questions, kind of give your response within 5 seconds. Some business, some personal. If you go beyond 5 seconds, you will get air horned off the pod.
I'm not good at this. I have to give you a warning, Tim. I'm never good at these things.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, perfect. Then I'm going to let Mike take you, Bo, and I'll go with David. So, Mike, go ahead and tee us up.
Yep. Here we go. All right. You ready, Bo?
Not sure, but go ahead.
Right, here we go. We'll start easy. Give us a quick pitch on EpiSci as if I were a 5-year-old.
Hey, you want to do a lot of cool stuff in the car or, without driving? Oh, that's not EpiSci. No, I'm sorry. That's applied. That's applied. Oh, boy. You know what? I'm going to fail.
This might be the more fun one yet.
Oh boy. Yeah. Can you skip? Yeah.
Sure.
Next one.
How would you describe the culture at EpiSci?
Actually, at EpiSci, we are half. 70% people are remote, but I don't feel like we are remote once you're online. They are present day, night, and evening, late evening, and very, very supportive and collaborating with each other. I love it.
Nice. What kind of technologist thrives at EpiSci?
Two types of people actually at EpiSci. One, someone who actually understands and being able to adapt the latest technologies to solve the problem. And of course, that's, valued no matter what, right? And actually, second, someone willing to help out, beyond their call of duty. So those two types of people and help out. And of course, we have visionaries, we have great leaders and EpiSci and all that. But when it comes to focusing on actually people doing the work, not talking like myself, I think those two types of people really make a big difference at EpiSci.
What kind of tech roles are you hiring at EpiSci?
If you write great autonomy software, top to bottom, you are in.
Awesome. What's the first thing you do when you wake up?
I check my messages. Yes.
Email, guilty.
Guilty. Yeah. Team. Yeah. Nice. Oh, I mean, less now, right? I'm trying to not do that anymore. Now that I have a little bit of different role applied, but definitely every morning was, you get up, see if there's any emergency. I have to give you actually a fun one. Rare times, we have servers in our office. One time the server went down we needed someone to reboot at 11, I think 1 a.m., So it was 11 p.m., 1 a.m. I was so glad I got that message because obviously you're in the middle of developing something important. So I was able to turn that on for the group and kind of chatted with the engineer, and he was so grateful to me, actually, that someone is out there to do it, the weekends and all that. So, those are the kind of, say, the scars or things that you get to be, able to earn, right? As only as the founders, right?
Right.
I mean, if you're not founders, and why do you not, why do you do that? So, yeah, that's would be one of the best episodes for me.
Nice. Aside from your phone, what's a tech gadget you can't live without?
Oh boy. Besides my phone, if I give you a laptop, that's too lame. Oh boy. I would say the smartwatch. I recently got one, and I love it. I wish I bought it much earlier and use it. It tells me a lot about what's going on, even if I don't watch the phone. So
Nice.
that's great.
What's a charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
To me, based on my faith, actually, there are several around me nearby, which really they are all focusing on the poor and unfortunate. So actually, I'm not going to name names here, but those are the now that I have a little more time, right, somewhat less burden, right, on running things. I love to do actually some more work on those agencies and charities. I love what they do, and I see them and I know what they do, and so yeah. Those charities are important to me. Actually, one more thing, since you asked that, Mike. Again, I am working in the defense. You really have the privilege to work with men and women, right, in the uniform, and who are, even though some may not be in the uniform, but the fact is that our work happen to deal with a lot of fighter pilots, right, and they I mean, again, great respect and admiration for what they have done and what they do. So there are some charities that are focusing on the war fighters, and definitely I'd like to do more, in support of that.
Nice. Couldn't agree more. So what's your go-to dessert?
My go-to dessert, ice cream.
Ice cream? Any particular flavor?
The cookies and creams with coffee. There's one, the mom and pop ice cream shop in Del Mar. I went there. They had a cookies and cream with coffee and one other flavor. I loved it so much. I went there a week later. That flavor was gone. They said, "Hey." So, boy, yeah, I missed that. Still, they don't have that anymore. So,
if you could time travel to any period, which would you visit first?
Oh yeah, back in 2012. Knowing what I know, right? What I know, I've done it so differently. I think there, but still want to not change anything in terms of the people that I met, in terms of the work we do. But any knowledge I gained through this whole process, I think I would have certainly, just like anybody, right, would make a lot less, mistakes.
Yeah, David and I would try and travel to 2012 and invest in EpiSci.
Oh yeah, leave me out. Thanks.
I heard you that
one. I would not have had much money though, so
there you go. All right, last one. What's one thing that's on your bucket list?
Oh, my bucket list. I wish I had really fancy ones, but the one that I have is let's spend more time with family. And this whole thing was very taxing, the family, and again, I owe tremendous amount of guilt and all that to my wife and my children. Some of my children actually work at EpiSci, so in this, but again, it's a work, right? It's a work, and at home, it's a totally different story. So I do need to spend time, whether that is hiking more, going to charities more and things like that. So yeah, just spending more time with family, definitely, my next big item.
Cool. All right. Well, it wasn't so painful for you, I hope.
That was. I wish you gave me some advance notices. Actually, I would have.
We'll say that was the 5-minute scramble, not the 5 cent scramble. No, enjoyed those answers. David, you're up. You ready?
Ready.
All right, let's do it. What's one of your favorite company values at Shield Capital?
The intellectual honesty. So everybody gets a say on stuff. Obviously, we have 4 decision makers, the partners, but everyone gets to share their opinions.
Nice. What kind of human thrives at Shield Capital?
Curiosity.
What are some of the most common tech roles that you see your portfolio companies hiring for right now?
The ones that they need are good federal business development people. It is a difficult thing, requires a lot of different complementary skill sets, and they are totally invaluable. I would also then make a plug for you're never too early to actually hire a really good, either fractional or full-time CFO.
Good plug. What's one of the biggest challenges that you hear from founders in early stages?
Keeping the culture from when it was really small, and letting go and delegating and knowing that it's going to be okay. Right. A lot of the founders are, they have a very particular way they want to get things done and vision, and ultimately you can't do it all. So having trust in the people and spending a lot of time hiring the right people, I think is super important, critical.
What's a favorite piece of legacy technology that you still own today?
I don't think I do.
You just pitched
I'm
it
kind of
all.
All appled out at this point. I just refreshed. So call me basic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got this JBL speaker in the shower so I can listen to my podcasts.
There you go. What's your favorite business book that you would recommend to fellow entrepreneurs?
In this space, I get asked a lot by people that are transitioning and they want to get into, early stage startups or venture capital. And I just recommend The Power Law. It's such a good book. So many good anecdotes, and it's a lot of fun.
Good stuff. What's a charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
So big dog lover over here. And I got my dog from the Humane Rescue Alliance. So big fan of them. And then I'll just give 2 plugs to friends of mine who are running some nonprofits. My friend Eringer Helbling, she runs Damati Ventures, which is a place for veterans to sort of find community, specifically with one of her initiatives called Project Sunrise, which is a weekly yoga practice. That's amazing. And then another friend of mine, Sarah Scully, and her podcast, Women in the Arena, which is under another 501c3 Iron Media, or Butterfly Iron Media. So anyways, they're just really inspirational people doing great things.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll point them out in the show notes as well. What if you could have dinner with any tech icon, past or present, who would it be with and why?
I mean, I guess I'd like to, at this point, meet with Elon Musk. He's super controversial, but he also has the ability to sort of make things happen. And so if he's got a particular beat on something because he's seeing it all, that would be probably pretty good for my future investments.
Yeah, be an interesting dinner. What is the worst fashion trend that you've ever followed?
That I followed?
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I was convinced when I turned 28 that I could make Velcro sneakers a thing. And then I was quickly told by people that you're not allowed to create fashion after the age of 30, like you've just aged out. I wasn't able to. So I just started wearing Allbirds, and I still wear Allbirds to this day.
Yeah. Super comfortable. I mean, the Velcro is just so easy, but
Right. I hated the like tying shoe. Basically, I just buy shoelaced shoes that I can slip on.
Right. Yeah. Allbirds.
Yeah, Allbirds.
Last question. What was your dream job as a kid?
My dad was a businessman, so I thought I would just be a businessman. And then I ended up joining the Air Force in college and doing ROTC, and I got to become a businessman in the military. So there you go. Not that exciting.
Living out your dreams.
Maybe I thought I'd be like an architect for Legos when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Like,
that is a dream job.
Well, you know what? Let me reverse that back. I did want to be a sportscaster. I thought I wanted to be on like Sports Center, like
nice.
Scott Van Pelt and Stuart Scott and Dan Patrick.
It's never too late.
It's never too late.
Might catch you on ESPN one of these days.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys both for spending time with us and sharing some of those insights on this whole defense tech ecosystem. I know it's going to be helpful for a number of our listeners who are kind of building out their strategy for their own startup. So thanks again for hanging out with us on the pod.
It was an honor and a pleasure. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.